Everything looks good. And we are streaming out live. Meeting is yours, Mr. Colwell.
Thank you very much. One moment, please. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the regular board meeting for April 21st, 2020. And 7 p.m. It is an electronic meeting for obvious reasons for COVID-19. So I would appreciate it if all of you would try to follow along as best you can. Just keep in mind that when we do have our public comment tonight, that it will be at its specific time, but generally where we used to have it, where you could comment throughout the meeting, you will not be able to do that at this time. So any comments that you have for any agenda item on, whether it's on or off the meeting, when we come to the public comment, please do so at this time. And essentially what you need to do is hit your *9 feature on your phone, and that will be raise your hand, and that our moderator, Ken Milburn, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, who does our videotaping of our meetings, will get you into it. So this being said, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to call for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic
which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Colwell,
Here.
Mr. Lilly is here. Mr. Roman,
Here.
Scott Ruggles.
Here.
Mike Powell,
Here.
Andrea Voorhees. Andrea is on the screen anyway.
I see.
Chris Smith.
Here.
She is not muted.
Andrea had no voice that I seen there.
I will call her and let her know that we can't hear her.
I do see her, so.
Okay.
And Rick,
Yes,
I know that Chief Keller is here, but he's on the phone. He's not on video.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so we have roll call. Thank you. Looking for an approval of the agenda, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to eliminate item 10C and also the addition of the new list of bills that I think everybody should have got those at 3 or 4 o'clock today.
And the only other item that I would like to add, Mr. Clerk, would be an FYI for GFL. I will make that, and that just hit my desk. We'll make that
I know.
10H.
Did you say that?
Yes.
Do you get that, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I made a motion looking for support.
Mr. Supervisor, can
Yes.
I add something, please?
What did you like? What would you like to
I had 2 questions. Number one, in the agenda, I did not have anything regarding inspector fees. Is that in there?
add? I believe that was added in. Oh, I beg your pardon. That is a walk-on. I beg your pardon. You should have that information.
So are you adding that as item 10?
We will add that as 10, I.
H? I?
10H is GFL FYI, 10I is inspector fees.
Can you guys hear me now?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, I had something else I wanted to just see if we could add.
Okay.
I didn't know if any of my colleagues there on the board would like to potentially add a discussion of a letter that the township board can send the governor requesting her not to extend the onerous stay-at-home order that she has is in right now, not extended at least to the extent as it is now.
We could add that as item 10J.
Okay,
Letter
thank you.
to governor.
They can hear me.
Yeah,
Mr.
That being
Supervisor?
said.
Yeah.
Last call. Okay, looking for approval of the amended agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
support?
I have Andrea made the motion, supported by Michael Powell. Roll call vote.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Supervisor?
Yes. Okay, at this time, it's item number 5, which is public comment. And again, if you have something to say, if you could hit your *9 feature, which will raise your hand. At this time, you'll need to state your name and your address for the record. Ken, do you have any takers?
We have approximately 4 people that have dialed in and no one has raised their hand yet. And again, they need to press *9 on their keypad to raise their hand to speak.
We'll give it a minute. No takers?
No takers.
That I'm closing public comment and moving on to item 6, consent
Oh,
agenda.
oh,
Mr.
wait, I'm sorry, Rick, we do have one now.
Okay, all right.
We have last 4 digits, 8308. You'll be unmuted now.
Okay. Who are we speaking to?
Hi, this is Barry Stolberg.
Hello, Barry
And
Stoll.
Hi, guys. And did I hear that item 10C was removed from the agenda tonight?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. Then I'll wait and we'll discuss it another time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
We just-
Thank you.
We did just have one more caller join just now. Let's remind the caller that just joined. If you'd like to speak, please press *9 on your keypad and we will see that your hand is raised and we will call on you.
'Cause we are in public comment. You entered at public comment. Okay, if not, moving on. Now moving to item 6, consent agenda. Mr. Clerk?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of the new list of bills.
Okay, I have that motion. Looking for support.
I'll support that.
I have support from Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Lilly votes yes. Mr. Cowell?
Yes. Consent agenda passes. As we did at our last electronic meeting with the blessing of our township attorney, I am combining all the minutes from the minutes of the special board meeting of March 11th, the special board meeting of March 16th, the emergency board meeting of March 16th, and the special board meeting of March 31st. I am making a motion to approve all those minutes as noted and looking for support.
I have a question, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
And I have no problem with the motion, but on page 8 of the unapproved minutes of 3/11, first paragraph,
Okay.
under item 3, the sentence ends very abruptly. It says the construction drawings that the building contractor needs to make sure it is being properly, the word constructed or properly built needs to be put in there.
Okay. Duly noted.
And that's it. And I'll support your motion as amended.
Thank you very much. With motion support, Looking for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Powell,
What'd you say, Terry?
asking for your vote.
Oh, yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell,
Yes.
you have 7 yes.
Okay. Item 8A, Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month is April 2020. We know that child abuse and its awareness of it are extremely important. We are also in a very trying times right now where individuals may really be testing their mettle, so to speak, as to how they're going to interact with their families and their children. So extremely important that that awareness be out there. So White Lake is making a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month for 2020. So whereas the abuse and neglect that suffer children by children in our communities, regardless of age, race, or economic situation, whereas 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18. Whereas this reported maltreatment is only a portion of the overall problem threatening our children, for so many cases go unreported. And today's technology has brought us with it a new and dangerous form of child endangerment, the online predator. Whereas the devastating consequences of physical and emotional abuse of our children affects the community as a whole, and find solutions needs to be attended by the community as a whole. Whereas Care House of Oakland County works to break the cycle of abuse and neglect, provide a protective circle of light and hope for a better life, advocates for safety and protection of children, and partners with community organizations and agencies to offer programs and services aimed at preventing child abuse. Now, therefore, be it resolved that White Lake Township hereby proclaims the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. All calls upon all citizens, community agencies, organizations, and businesses to increase their participation in effort to prevent the abuse of children, thereby strengthening and protecting the community in which we live. The Board of White Lake Township. Thank you for all your support, members. Next item on our list is the Mental Health Awareness Month. Now that is something that is extremely important right now, as we are going through something that none of us have ever seen at any point in time in our life. We have to be patient, we have to be kind. And Oakland Community Health Network is the sponsors of this particular proclamation. White Lake Township Proclamation Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2020, which will be May, excuse me, not April. Whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as at our families, communities, and businesses. And whereas at least 4 million Americans provide care to an adult with an emotional or mental illness. And whereas 6 to 17 years of age experience a mental health disorder that, if untreated, can lead to failure, physical illness, substance abuse, jail, even suicide. Whereas May 7th has been designated a Children Mental Health Awareness Day, and whereas 1 in 8 of all U.S. emergency departments are related to mental health and substance use disorders. Whereas mental illness is a biologically based brain disorder and cannot be overcome through willpower, and is not related to a defect in a person's character or intelligence. Whereas mental health recovery is a journey of healing and transformation, enabling people with a mental illness to live in a community of his or her choice while striving to achieve his or her full potential. And whereas mental health recovery not only benefits individuals with mental health disorders by focusing on our abilities to live, work, learn, fully participate, and contribute to society, but also enriches the culture of our community life. And whereas the Oakland County Health Network, OCHN, and its service provider agencies are committed to inspire hope, empowering people, and strengthening communities. Now therefore be it resolved that White Lake Township hereby recognizes May 2020 as Mental Health Month. White Lake calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and a need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses to promote recovery. White Lake Township Board. Thank you, board members.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
could you add
Sure.
something to that maybe in that the proclamation is absolutely perfect the way it's written. But then there's an application or there's no direction. You mentioned it in the beginning of the introduction that Oakland County Health Department would be a place where people can go, but we don't give any direction to somebody that's dealing with this.
I do not have anything other than Oakland Community Health Network, which is the organization that put this forward, not the Oakland County itself, but Oakland Community Health Network. And their offices are located in Troy, and their phone number is 248-858-1210. Again,
Thank you.
248-858-1210. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Okay, moving on to item 9A, resolution number 20007, Colony Heights Road Paving Special Assessment District, SAD. Mr. O'Neill.
Hello, hopefully you can hear me better than last time.
Yes.
This is pretty straightforward for those of you who recall the approval of the Trailside Meadows project. One of the community benefits that was offered or included with that project was a contribution to the Colony Heights Special Assessment District for road paving. This was a $20,000 deposit that we collected from the developer at the time of their pre-construction meeting. So these funds are currently on deposit with the treasurer's office and are ready to go in the event that the project moves ahead. But the Road Commission for Oakland County requires us to take, or you to take, some action to acknowledge that you will be contributing these funds, which again are not taxpayer funds or not township funds. They are developer funds that were contributed as a part of the Trailside Meadows project approval. So it's that's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Mr. Lilly. I think you had your hand up first.
Rick, it seems to be some on again, off again over at Colony Heights, whether they wanted to go forward with this project. Have you heard anything lately from their representation over there of where they stand at this point?
Mr. O'Neill.
So what happened last time, this last season when they tried, was that the bids came back too high, and they had to go back and start the process over again. I think the bids came in high again, according to the Road Commission, but they've met with the neighbors, and I understand that last I heard, they're still moving ahead with this project. So I do think that the roads will be paved in there this summer, as long as nothing has changed.
Yeah, I confirm Mr. O'Neill's statement, as I do recall seeing some information that came back that the quotes came in much higher, but the community had decided to move forward. So at this time, I believe they are moving forward with it, Terry.
Yes, I agree with that. I talked to my friends that live in that neighborhood and they absolutely are moving ahead with it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that being said,
Supervisor?
from Mr. Powell.
And then Rick, then Mike has his hand up as well. It's just a technical question that I have for you or maybe our attorney. It's my understanding that the Road Commission is a totally separate entity than the township, than the county government. And in paragraph 1 on page 2, it says that we are depositing this with the Oakland County Treasurer instead of the Road Commission.
That's a Sean question, because I got that information from Sean. That the person he's been talking to told him that.
Okay, so as far as the money is on deposit with the township treasurer, not the county treasurer. I believe it goes from the township treasurer to the road commission.
Okay,
Yeah, but paragraph 1 talks about when we receive an invoice from the Oakland County Treasurer is when we have to pay the money.
should be from the road commission treasurer.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe we can make it more generic. I don't know if we'll get the invoice. It seems like we'll get the invoice from the road commission though, not the county treasurer, to your point.
Right. So we can modify that as necessary before it's executed.
Before the money actually goes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that being said, okay, looking for a motion to resolution along. Anyone? Mr. Roman,
So I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-007 to allow for $20,000 to be paid out of the trust and agency account over to the road commission toward SAD 25062.
I
Support.
have a motion looking for support. Mr. Powell, you supported?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 9B, Resolution 20-011, West Nile Virus Prevention Reimbursement Program. Typically, we have that cost every year. Mr. Potter, you want to touch base on that real quick?
Yes, so correct, the township has been participating in the West abatement program for since 2005. Due to the coronavirus, a lot of the documentation in the program is a little behind schedule from where we were last year. However, we have been notified that the allocations per CBT are going to be the same as that they were in 2019. So this is a 50% matching grant. So we're looking at that the township authorize expenditures not to exceed 5,526. The total grant would be 11,053.60. We haven't gotten all the quotes back yet, but we're most likely going to just adjust quantities to stay at the same costs that we were at last year.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Okay, looking for a motion to move on. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 20-001, the West Nile Virus Prevention Reimbursement Program. Looking for support.
Support.
Is that resolution?
Quoted the wrong resolution number.
Yeah,
West Nile 20011.
thank you.
Okay, beg your pardon. Okay, who supported?
I did.
Okay, Andrea, thank you. We have motion support. Roll call vote, please.
Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. 9B passes. Thank you. Resolution 9C, Resolution 20-012, Tall Lake Goose Roundup. Any questions? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Powell.
Just a technical question that maybe you can help me with, or Lisa. It is in the fourth whereas. It says it's a 5-year resolution. Can this board pass a 5-year resolution and bind a future board?
Technically, no. Do you do that sometimes for contracts and stuff when you get a good deal? Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
But the resolution number on this resolution in the board packet is incorrect. It's not 2012, it's 0012.
00212.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
beg your pardon, 20012. Okay. Okay, that being said, any other conversation? Looking for, yes, Mr. Ruggles.
Oh, I'll make your motion, Rick. Make a
Okay.
motion. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 20-0012.
012. Okay. Motion looking for support.
Support. Andrew,
Nice.
support.
Support from Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Paul,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Item 10, 10A, new business. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. New business, request to approve consent judgment amendment for 10,070 Elizabeth Lake Road, Spraders on the Lake. Mr. O'Neill. Oh, Mr. Roman, I'm sorry. You had your hand up first.
I was going to make a motion to approve the consent judgment amendment for 10070 Elizabeth Lake Road.
Okay. I have a motion to approve, looking for support. Mr.
Support.
You have your hand up, Mr. Powell?
No, I have a question after it's supported.
And I have some comments as well.
Okay.
Either if you
Okay.
don't say it.
Where did I hear support?
Right here, Rick.
Okay, I have motion, I have support. Mr. Powell, questions?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I have a question. First of all, I wanted to tell the attorneys how impressed I am on how well they put this agreement together. I think it's succinctly set and very well represented. Wanted to make sure that we give the applicant and his attorney an opportunity to at least discuss something. But I had a question in page 3, paragraph CII. Just wanted to make sure that we didn't have a future problem in that paragraph says that there shall be no access by the public whatsoever to the additional interior second floor space. So let's just assume that they have, they're living there and they have dinner guests or they have a birthday party. I want to make sure that that's not in violation of public access.
Well, that's a good point, but I think it really infers to the public at large.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
how
okay with
I,
it. I just don't want anybody second guessing us.
I believe that Mr. Linnell and Ms. Hamami have drafted that with that intention, and I don't think there, at this moment, there is a second guessing, unless Lisa, you want to make some kind of comment to that?
No, I think reading paragraph II in conjunction with paragraph I think it's
Yep.
a clear conclusion that they
Okay,
can
very
have
good.
guests.
Mr.
But
Linnell,
certainly they
any-
don't want anybody from the bar to be able to access the upstairs.
correct, and that's not their intention. Mr. Linnell, any question or comment?
Other than we would be amenable to any additional language for clarification purposes if it's so desired. But I believe that my client and I are clear on the intent of that language, which has already been echoed and stated, and that is that it's not to be used as an extension of the bar, but certainly a
Correct.
private guest or party would be permitted for the owner and or his relatives.
Correct, correct. Okay. That being said, I have motion, I have support.
I had a couple of things, Rick. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point a few things out in the consent judgment. I mean, I appreciate the comments, Mr. Powell. What we tried to do was really solidify and put into writing what the Township Board directed us to at the special board meeting. And just a couple of things that I wanted to point out is in that same paragraph C, paragraph CI, this is this is giving him more than he had in the original consent judgment. And I believe that's what the intent of the board members at the special board meeting, but I did want to call that out in that in the original consent judgment, it was limited to just Matt Sprader, and this expands it to both Matt Sprader, members of his family, and any future owner of the property and their family. I just wanted to call that out to your attention because while I believe that was your intent at the special board meeting, it wasn't in the original consent judgment.
And I believe that was brought up at the meeting at the time of conversation, and that part of that did not make any sense. So this is reasonable language.
And the only other thing I wanted to point out is language, paragraph 8, where we say a copy of the consent judgment may be recorded at the Office of the Register of Deeds. I know I talked to Sean earlier today, and we feel it should be recorded, so that we might want to just change that from a may to a shall. And we have no problem being the township doing the recording, just to be clear for everybody's purposes.
Okay, Mr. Roman, do you want to amend your motion to?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Powell, you amending your? second?
I support the amendment.
Okay. All right. We have motion on the amended version. Support. Roll call vote.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Absolutely yes. Motion carries.
Thank you all so much. You have no idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
When this
Thank
is
you.
done, I want you all up there for a drink.
That's if we can get within 6 feet of each other.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
Thank
the
you.
bar is essential.
Yeah.
Thank
There
you.
go. Thank you
Thank
guys
you,
so much. Have
Matt.
a great night.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. And I would also just add, because I know this was discussed at the previous meeting, the quiet title action was filed with Oakland County Circuit on March 26th. It was e-filed and things aren't moving quite as quickly, but I want to be clear that Mr. Sprader has made it clear to us that that is high priority and we have treated it as such.
That's great news.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
very
guys all
much.
very much. Stay safe.
Stay-
Yes.
You too.
You too.
Hey, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Moving on to 10B, request to approve deferral of sanitary ordinance 38-514 for parcel ID number 126476015, southeast corner of Farnsworth and Little Farm. Mr. Potter.
Yes, so this is another property that is for sale currently, that is adjacent to the Phase 1 sewer main on Farnsworth. There is actually a lead to supply this property with service coming off of Farnsworth. However, this per ordinance 38-514, these future owners would have to extend this main across their frontage. I have spoken with 3 different potential purchasers of this property about this and what it would entail. The sewer that's currently stubbed for extension there is 21.5 feet deep. There's 32 feet 10-inch main extended. This property under that ordinance currently would be required to extend 174 feet of 10-inch main to their northeast corner. So DPS is requesting a deferral of this ordinance on this particular property. We don't feel that it's appropriate to build the system in this way. I've had no other interest in the last 3 years of folks that wanted to connect to sanitary sewers in the interior of this neighborhood. And I feel that it would cause an undue hardship for these owners. Most likely, in my opinion, the reason why there isn't already a house built on this lot is this ordinance. So that's where we're at on this. I'm asking the board to agree to a deferral with the current or future owner. I've attached a draft of such agreements. I know Lisa hates it when I do this, but I'm asking the township to authorize me to work directly with the township attorney to create this, and that it be made ready to execute like I said, with the current or future owner. No, there's a handful of developers looking at this property right now.
Right, very good. This is another classic case of the piecemeal building of the system.
Yeah.
And it's not in the best interest of the township to have the system built that way. The likelihood of going in that direction is anybody's guess. But as you stated, Mr. Potter, there's been little or no interest in that area.
Well, and the beauty of a deferral agreement is that, you know, we're not exempting, we're not varying the ordinance. If this, you know, if future interest does start up a special assessment district or something along those lines, then, you know, the part of the agreement was that this property would be a willing participant in that SAD.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Mr. Lilly?
Make a motion to support Aaron's request for the deferment. We need to make sure that that deferment is recorded against the property. So people looking at that are going to know about it.
Okay. Mr. Powell, you have a question or?
Yes, I'd like to support after I point out a couple things. Just want to make sure my colleagues are on board with a couple things. And I've run these by Mr. Potter. And the last paragraph of the first page, I just want to make sure that the board knows that DPS is requesting the Board of Trustees to authorize me to really, he's looking for the ability to create the agreement, but that needs to be signed by the supervisor. And then the last item that I wanted to point out so that we could add it in the resolution or somehow put it in the minutes of this meeting. And the applicant or the person that's going to be tying into the sanitary sewer will be tying in with a lateral benefit charge. And without getting technical, he'll be having to pay twice for the new sanitary sewer in the SAD and the lateral benefit charge to tie into the existing sewer. So I would like it added that the homeowner that pays that $2,100 additional lateral benefit fee will have that credited to him, credited back to him when the special assessment district is established and that other sewer is run. Otherwise, he's paying twice and it's kind of in contradiction with each other. So otherwise, I'm in full support of this, and I want to thank Aaron very much for bringing this to the board.
Mr. Potter, anything to add to that?
Nope, I agree.
Okay. Okay, we have motion, we have support as amended. Looking for a roll call vote.
Mr. Kowal,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith.
Yes.
Yes, we have 7 yes.
Very good. Motion carries. 10D, request for first quarter 2020 water bill due date extension. Mr. Potter?
Yeah, so this was something that I tried to get onto the special board meeting at the end of March. Fortunately, didn't quite realize that we couldn't add a late item to the special board meeting agenda. We have gone ahead and done this, and the reason why I'm bringing this back to you is at the time we did this, I didn't realize that the billing due date was actually an ordinance. So what we're doing right now, I guess, is requesting after the fact that we authorize a 30-day extension on the water billing due date for the first quarter of 2020 to try to help out folks that may be laid off due to the COVID-19 issue. So far, we have received a bunch of water bills payments, so it seems like maybe wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be, which we're thankful for. Would like to try to offer some way of assisting, and I really can't waive these fees, but we could certainly, potentially delay maybe 30 days, how long it takes to get these fees.
Oh, it's a good thing to do to put that out there.
Yep,
Get
absolutely.
look at that relief at this particular point in time. And I'm in full support of that, Mr. Potter. So I believe it's a good thing. All right, so looking for a motion to move forward.
Should we extend it out 60 or 90 days?
We tried to start with 30 and we figured, we'll have plenty of meetings in between then and now. And so,
If we need to address it again, Mike, we will.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And keep in mind, our bills go out quarterly, so the next bill is in, 60 days from now.
Right.
correct.
So we've got a little cycle of time yet. So they're
Good.
not monthly billings. Okay, looking for a motion?
Uh,
Yes,
I just want
Lisa.
to, whoever makes the motion, I just would like it to please be clear that it is a one-time extension of the second quarter billing by 30 days. Aaron, is that correct?
Correct.
We almost did that
I thought it
perfectly.
was the first quarter, you mean?
I'm sorry.
First-
correct.
Yeah, it's first.
Second quarter is incorrect. First quarter, 2020.
Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Mr. Roman.
Okay,
Mr.
I'll-
Roman.
Mr. Roman.
Go ahead, Rick.
All right. I would like to make a motion to have this as a one-time extension of the first quarterly billing under item. Well, it'd be the item for request of first quarterly billing is a one-time event and do so
I'll support that.
For 30 days.
for 30
For
days.
30 days, I'll support it.
Oy. Okay. Motion support, roll call vote, please.
Lily votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Dick Powell,
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Cowell.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. 10E, request to approve amendment 1 to agreement for IT services with Oakland County online payments. Mr. Bowman.
So attached is an amendment to our IT agreement with Oakland County. This amendment will allow the township to partner with Oakland County through their G2G cloud solutions for the purpose of accepting over-the-counter, online, mobile, and electronic, to be used for credit cards or electronic checks. Their team usually needs between 4 to 8 weeks to implement, but with everything going on with COVID, probably going to be longer than the 8 weeks. I've attached it is a fee-based service, remember. And so I've got the fees attached, as well as Oakland County's revenue sharing model. So with everything going on with COVID, there's probably no better time to start taking electronic payments for everything. We've used Oakland County for tax payments for years. And because we already had that relationship with tax, it made more sense to use Oakland County as compared to like using a point and pay. I think Oakland County's fees are a little lower as well. Did anyone have any questions?
I'm glad to see that you're moving into the 21st century.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can just talk about the contract for a minute. I didn't review the contract because it's a county agreement. You take it or leave it. We all know that at this point. But what I did want to remind you of is the contract that we have with the county. It's voluminous. And basically the way they do it is a standard contract, and then it's choose all of the options that you want. So the contract that we currently have with Oakland County, we've chosen certain options, and those exhibits, those options are attached to the original agreement. So what you have in front of you is an amendment to that agreement, which then brings in 2 more exhibits and 2 more options that you're selecting. So then in the future, then when we have to review a new contract from the county, these will already be in it as an existing service that we've opted into.
Thank you, Ms. Amami. Anything to add, Mr. Roman?
No, I didn't know if any of the board members had any questions.
Yeah. I don't have any.
Seeing as none, would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the amendment to the IT agreement with Oakland County and to allow the supervisor to sign it.
I have a motion looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes. I
Mr.
thought it
Lilly,
was me.
yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
yes,
Liz Smith,
yes,
we have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10F, Treasurer's Annual Report, year-end 2019. Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. So if you don't already know, townships have to invest in accordance with Michigan Public Act 20. It really limits where you can put your money, but for very good reasons. Safety of capital is the first objective, followed by liquidity and then yield. God, we had a really good year, guys. We earned right around $443,000 in interest between general police and fire. Just certainly the best year we've had since I've come on board in 2012. To move down to legacy costs, we've been funding the OPEB, as you know, which is for retiree health care. The value of these assets as of end of the year 2019 came to $4,065,552. Let's see what else. The taxable value is creeping up in the township. I think from the increase in taxable value in 2019 versus 2018 generated an additional $46,000 in general fund tax revenue. So our property values are still rising. That's a good thing. Let's hope that continues. Asset protection. If you're not aware, we implemented positive pay on all of our checking accounts. Every check that the township writes now, we upload those into the fraud protection services at our financial institutions. If any check is attempted to clear any of our bank accounts without a correct check date, payee, dollar amount, we'll get those exceptions, which we have to either clear or turn down, which in most cases, we would obviously turn them down. There is a lot of check fraud out there. In regard to our fund balances, all of our operating balances went up. And I thank all you guys. I thank the township supervisor, Rick, our department heads, and really our entire board, guys. We don't want to spend money unless we have to. And I so appreciate that. It helps me sleep at night. Did anyone have any questions?
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you. Any board members for the question? Mr. Powell.
I just want to thank Treasurer Roman for the clear, concise way he presented this. It was very easily understood, and I want to thank you for that, Michael. And I would move to receive and file this, Mr. Supervisor.
Very good. A motion to receive and file, supported by the supervisor. Very good. We don't need to take a vote on it, but that's good.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And always appreciate the good work you and Terry together. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 10G, and G stands for grass. Okay. Grass stands for governor. Okay. And I've been catching a lot of hell. Or should I say that? This is cable. I can say that. Okay. For the simple fact that people are concerned about maintaining their lawns. Well, it is the opinion of the governor and the attorney general that cutting your lawn is non-essential but being able to go to Sherwin-Williams to get a gallon of paint is, okay? So I'm still trying to figure that out. And I have a number of supervisors throughout Oakland County who have a difference of opinion with the governor. And frankly, I do too. I think the grass cutting is an essential service to our community. I believe that it could be done safely by single and sole operators. And I think that this is a little bit of an extremism on the part of this whole thing. What makes the difference of you cutting your grass or hiring Bob to cut your grass? It really shouldn't make a difference as long as they can meet the single sole operator and maintain their social distancing. However, the Attorney General has challenged a couple communities with the judge, which our illustrious attorney has provided me with that information as early as this afternoon. I would like to hear what my other board members have to say about it, starting with Mr. Lilly.
I agree, Rick. I think there's certain circumstances, the lawn cutting and whatever, that some of these individuals need to get back to work and be able to do things. And I'm not talking about just grass cutting, but grass fertilization and some of those one-man operations that seem to be a little bit stringent right now.
Very good. Thank you.
It's time to get back with legitimate reasons.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Mr. Roman.
Well, although I know our governor means well and she's trying to do the best for the state, I think she missed the boat on this one. Landscapers in and of themselves, they are already socially distanced. And then you look at the economic impact that this has on them. Those people need to work. Many of them have already received prepayments for the whole year. They're going to have to refund money now. So, yeah, I think our governor missed the boat on that one. However, that being said, an order is an order. Her order is clear. I don't think we have a choice other than to obey the order.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Powell.
I agree with Mr. Roman up to a point, but quite frankly, this country is founded on a number of things that we've decided that is not right, and we fight against it. And there's no reason why we should act on an order that we believe is not correct. Therefore, I would be extremely disappointed. Obviously, we're not going to, depending on what we do later on in the agenda, I'm not going to suggest that we send a letter to the governor saying, forget you, everybody's going to mow their lawn, come and arrest us. I don't expect to do that, but I would be very disappointed if our police officers arrested somebody in handcuffs because they were mowing somebody's lawn. And like we saw a lone surfer being arrested for surfing. So I would fully support allowing lawn keepers and maybe even tree trimmers, landscapers to do their trade in this township.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Liz Smith, please. Liz, you're muted, I think. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So for me, the safety and health of our residents is most important to me first. So as long as it's safe, I believe we can come to common sense and reasonable solutions here. I certainly think local control is best, and I think that we can come to some reasonable agreements to perhaps temporarily amend our ordinances or give instructions to our ordinance officer to not take action upon residents for lawn cutting and things like that. My grass is still dormant with our good old Michigan weather and snowflakes this morning. And I do believe that our legislature will probably take action on this item before our next board meeting. So it's good that we're discussing it now, and perhaps if we need to, we would come and discuss it again on our May board meeting and take action then if need be. So those are my thoughts. The safety is first. I think there will be action on this soon in the legislature, and then I'd like to have some common sense and just reasonable discussion on how we could support our ordinance officer and maybe talk with Lisa on how we're able to come up with a temporary solution to handle this.
Thank you. Andrew Voorhees.
I agree with Mike and Liz. An order is an order of what the governor has given us. I think one of the reasons she has done it is, yes, they can absolutely social distance themselves from their coworkers, but at the same time, I think one of her concerns is our health system is already overloaded with injuries. What happens if an injury were to happen when they're out mowing the lawn? They don't necessarily always wear the best protective equipment. They get a stone in their eye. I don't know about you, but the last place I really want to go at this point is the ER. I also have this feeling that will be one of the first restrictions that the governor will adjust, and that's why I say it's common sense. But our grass also is very short, and I also have parents that rely on a landscaper lawn service. So I think there'll be some changes in our legislature. So I think we need to leave it where it is at the local level.
Very good. Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I think that as far as this goes, maybe she's gone a little too far. It's a activity that is definitely safe with some social distancing. I think individuals can call and prepay, have somebody come to their home, cut their grass. There's no contact. Even though that the governor might be changing her opinion on it at the end of the month, we're not sure about that. I'd sure hate to see somebody get in trouble in White Lake Township for having somebody come and mow their yard when there's really no requirement for any interaction. You can pay over the phone. You can have them come to your house, and I would be in support of us here at the local level addressing this issue, being a little bit over the top as far as extremism is in her order. And don't get me wrong, I don't disagree with the requirement of safety for everybody in our state and our community, but I think this can be safely done at the same time. So I guess that's my stance.
Very good. Lisa Hamami.
Well, I mean, obviously, my opinion, Rick. I'm not in politics. And while I understand common sense and I may not agree with the governor's decisions, her decisions are the decisions that bind us being the township, and the township does not have authority to override her opinion, her order. And I shared with Rick today, there was a case where a landscape contractor, in fact, sued the governor, and the AG defended the case, and the judge ruled in favor of the governor and said landscape contractors are not essential workers and therefore should not be working. She also issued a frequently asked questions on the most recent executive order, makes it absolutely crystal clear that landscape contractors are not essential workers. So, having put politics aside and common sense aside, strictly looking at the law, I don't see how you have authority to override her.
I love the way Lisa put that, putting common sense aside. I love it.
Yes, I like that.
My access died.
Oh, your access died?
Yeah.
Okay. Scott's offline for the moment.
I'll just listen.
Okay, all right.
Vote from over here.
Okay. He's using his social distancing over in Trish's chair here. So personally myself, I say cut the damn grass.
Yep.
That's simple. Okay. Cut the damn grass. We have an ordinance. We have to maintain it. Mr. Hudson, do you see us having another maybe 6 or 7 days before we're having problems? What's your opinion?
The time of the year, I don't think that we're going to have a big problem. If this goes longer, then we'll start getting the neighbors complaining. But I think due to the weather and the timing of this, I don't think it's a huge issue, but it will be.
Great.
Okay.
And I certainly will work with every homeowner and every complainant to try to come to an amicable solution for them and try to explain the situation. So.
Right. And my personal opinion here, folks, doesn't matter because we do have an executive order from the government, from our governor, excuse me. And it's allegedly in our best interest, but the two worlds that very seldom seem to coincide with each other, of which I must say this board takes a lot of pride in trying to do, is common sense and government. That's one of the things that I will say this board tries to do, that's for sure. So that being said, what I would like to do is I would like to keep an eye on the situation with the governor's office and potentially revisit this within no more than 10 days, if needed by special meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
At that time, we could take a look at it. All of you kind of in favor of that, raise your hand. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Powell, you wanted to say something?
Oh, just strictly,
Mr. Ruggles raised his hand over here too.
it's more, quite frankly, more than mowing the lawn. If you let it go too long, now the process of cutting it is greatly more difficult. You have to
Exactly.
cut, rake, cut again, and so it really snowballs.
Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot for the carbon footprint,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
At some point, everybody's just gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, like Mr. Ruggles says, at some point, everybody's just going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can tell people out there is I believe you know how your board feels about it. The board also does have a respect for the governor's order. However, the one thing the board cannot do, and this township cannot do, is we cannot protect you if you decide to have this done and the state police and or the sheriff's department decide to write you a ticket. That's just the way that's potentially could happen. So you would have to proceed at your own peril. But I would like to say that I think this board could visit this within 10 days and potentially make a decision from that point. Lisa, yes.
So two things, are you having a meeting in 10 days? You might want to be more clear on until
I
your
may
next.
call a special board meeting within 10 days. That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
And then also what I wanted to point out in light of all of your concerns, I mean, you've done it before. You can ask the ordinance enforcement officer, direct the ordinance enforcement officer to not enforce the provision of the property maintenance code regarding the height of grass. And that would at least accommodate some issue or some concern of some of the residents.
Thank you, Lisa.
That's potentially an action. Yes, Liz?
Sorry, didn't raise my hand there. Didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you, Lisa. That's what I was hoping for, that our board could give Mr. Hudson some direction and that we certainly would be supportive to Mr. Hudson, our ordinance officer, and supportive to our residents, that we would not be actively participating in ticketing them at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Hudson and I have had some conversations to that effect, and he is going to be giving the benefit of the doubt to our residents. But I believe that we should, as a board, try to take a look at this in, say, 10 days. And perhaps by then there'll be some revisions in this particular segment of this stay safe order.
Yeah, so I agree, just taking things slow and step by step and staying in a lot of contact right now as our board. We might have to have many special board meetings because you know, it's a new norm and there's a lot of things going on. So just being in close communication and more constant communication probably is best for our residents right now. I looked at the 10-day forecast. I don't think we're gonna have a huge grass growth by then, but this definitely does need to be addressed. So in 10 days, I think that's fair to just kind of stay in contact about it, communication about it.
I'm glad everyone is in agreement. Yes, Lisa.
Just back to the technicalities. 10 days puts you at May 1st.
Yes.
That's a day after the governor's order. If you want to have a special meeting, you will have difficulty scheduling it and arranging it in the time from when you find out what the judge's April 30th order is and your special meeting.
I may schedule it, but we may just cancel it.
Okay.
Okay. That's the option we have, okay? All right, I just wanted to bring that all forward to you to have a conversation because I had many people call me.
Mhm.
Jason's had a myriad of lawn maintenance people call him, and it's obviously a concern. And one of the things that I've been doing during this time is I've been calling our seniors, and it's kind of funny because I'll ask them, you know, do you need this? Do you need that? What do you need? What's your biggest concern? And I will tell you, the biggest concern is who's going to cut my grass? If somebody was that, they weren't worried about getting food. They weren't worried about getting water. They were worried about getting their grass cut and their spring cleanup done. That was their number one concern. So we'll take that into consideration. But again, if anybody proceeds at this through a hired contractor, the township has no means of defending your action because it is a order
Right.
of the governor. So with that, I will close on this subject matter and move on. Board members, you'll see before you a item which would be 10H, a letter that we received actually today from GFL, and I apologize for notice, but I just wanted to give you as an FYI. Our trash contract is going to be expiring this year at the end of the year. And they've actually given us some fairly good rates. We're currently at $14.18 per household. They're willing to give us an extension for actually up to 3 years, $15.26. And that's actually, in my mind's eye, a very reasonable,
Yeah, it is.
especially for a 3-year period. And they will do a 1-year extension for the same price. So there's no savings not to go the 3 years. So this is something that I'd like the board members to think about. And if you have questions, you have comments, anything you want to take a look at, there's an option in there for a 65-gallon recycling cart. I've had many people in the township ask for a larger recycling cart, but there's many people that don't recycle. So that question becomes whether we put a cart out there and add the expenditure of something that someone's not going to use, or whether the individuals purchase those carts separately. If we as a township were to purchase those carts for every household in the community, our rate would jump to $16.51 per household. So it's not terrible, but it spreads the cost out of those carts, but how many people are going to really do that want those carts? So I'm going to do a little homework out there and a little mining with the community to see what the desire is and how many people would really want to go out there. I think I'll have Sean and do a little survey monkey there and maybe see if we can get some feedback from the public if people would consider going to the 65-gallon cart. So I'd like all of you to look at that and review that, and then we can have some further discussion on it. Mr. Powell.
I have an observation and then maybe a minor correction to what you said, Mr. Supervisor. It's their rate proposal is to be $15.26 a month. And that's a 7.62% increase over this year.
Correct.
And then it's not a $15.26 for 3 years. They're adding a 2.5% increase each year. So it does go up each year.
I stand corrected.
And then I just have one question in your survey around with the residents. If the resident, they seem to say that if everyone gets a cart, they'll have the front end loader pickup available to to dump it. If only half the residents or only a quarter of the residents get the cart, are they going to pull that option out of bringing that truck around? So you need to ask them that question.
Yeah, we don't know. These are all things we have to talk about, and that's why we're having this conversation. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but the amounts were reasonable.
Yeah.
The fact that there's this is turning into a very interesting situation. Republic no longer wants to be in the residential, and BFI doesn't want to be in the residential, and Waste Management doesn't want to be in the residence.
Wow.
So there's not a lot of horses left to ride. Mr. Lilly, I saw your hand up.
I was just gonna say the same thing, Rick, over a period of time when we have, put our contract out for bid, that there's something, only 4 companies that
Yep.
even bidding, and 2 of those were extremely high. And those we've already experienced their services, so I would think that this matter should be given some very serious consideration as far as extending the contract with our person.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Mr. Roman.
I am in total agreement with both Rick and Terry. I've been looking at bids for, 8 years now. We're usually very lucky to get 2 competitive bids. The other bids are so high. I mean, you have to be cheaper for me to get rid of my garbage on my own. To get a 3-year deal, for $15 and whatever per month per home. Wow, sounds like a bargain to me. The other thing is, from what I see, it seems like the entire world is losing garbage dumps, places to dump this stuff. China doesn't want it anymore. I don't think anyone wants it. I think a 3-year deal would really help us all sleep better at night. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. And you can't have your son at the McDonald's and get rid of it. That's not the cheapest route. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions at the moment? We will have further conversation, but I wanted everyone to at least get that. I received that today and I thought it was, thought you should have that. And Trish.
I have a question, Mr. Cole.
Yes.
My sister lives on the west side of the state and they have a cart for both recycling and garbage. Their recycling is only picked up every 2 weeks. They have the 6. Is that something like that could be an option for White Lake Township?
These are all the things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Making a note.
Okay.
Okay, these are all things we need to talk about. Okay, we good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving on to item, which will be 10I. It is the inspector's fee. Nicholas? Mr. Spencer? Hit your microphone button. There you
There we go.
go.
Hello. Board looking to get approval for an inspector wage scale for non-standard inspections. These are basically inspections that either inspections or other paid time for doing plan review, doing court dates if necessary. These are very rare circumstances, but we have no mechanism currently to pay our inspectors for these. These are not for full-time, obviously, these are part-time inspectors. So I think you've all been provided the wage scale. So just looking to get approval and answer any questions if need be.
Yeah, Nick, I think it's very reasonable. And we found out really when this all came to the surface, when we had some issues with some businesses that had to have major correction policing. Right. And I know that you and Jason Hudson and John Holland and you guys all work together real diligently and others to try to make it all come together. And I think that's when it kind of came to light that we didn't have a window for this particular item. So I'm in full support of it. And at this moment in time, any other board members have a question?
How do these rates compare to the other rates in the neighboring communities? I don't think they're out of control. I was just curious.
Some of them are lower.
So I've worked in 8 different communities over the past few years, doing inspections as a part-time inspector, and these are all right within.
Okay.
I basically took an average of what all those communities were.
Okay.
So that's how it came about those numbers.
I think it's very reasonable.
Thank you,
Mr. Roman.
Okay.
Nick, just to confirm, these hourly wage rates are paid out as independent contractor, correct? These people are not on payroll.
That is correct.
Okay, so just so the board keeps in mind, there's no payroll taxes or workers' comp or anything on top of these rates. So I do think they're reasonable. And with that, I would make a motion to approve these inspector hourly rates.
Okay. I have a motion looking for support. Mr. Powell?
I'll support and wanted to run by maybe Mr. Roman to modify it, or maybe there can be an understanding. I believe that if not all these fees, most of these fees are reimbursable by the applicant or the property owner. And I want to make sure that we discuss that as well.
Well, we do that when we can, but when we go to court, we don't always get it back. And that's that's been the big mistake. That's what really kind of brought this thing forefront. And I won't get into all that right now, but so we need to have this kind of as a catch-all. So
Right.
whenever possible, yes, we bill for this type of stuff, Mike. That's automatic.
Excellent. Good. I'll support that.
Yeah, but the events that really kind of led up to this, those are non-billable.
Yeah.
We have motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr.
You said
Roman.
yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Motion carries. 10
Seven yes.
10 aye.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. 10J. Letter to the governor.
Yes.
Now, Mike, you got 3 minutes.
All right. First of all, I want to preface this by saying that we're all concerned about people's safety. And I don't believe the order in any of the governors, and especially our governor, was predicated on the fact that by staying home, it was going to prevent people from getting the virus or getting sick. It was strictly to keep the curve down and spread it out to where our health officials and our health system can deal with the sicknesses that are coming. In other words, if you're at all familiar with mathematics, the area under the curve stays the same. So the same number of people that were projected to get sick under the original design with a high bell curve will get sick. It'll just take a longer period of time, whether it be months or years or whatever. So the safety concern is not valid, because if you're going to get sick, you're going to get it. It's just a matter, can the health care treat it? So in my opinion, now, unless somebody can point to something where I'm wrong, the hospitals are actually shutting down wings. They have lost revenue because we have shut down the voluntary serving of patients. And I believe every single hospital in this state now has more than enough room to deal with the traumatic eye stuff or the accidents that happen, because they're actually shutting down wings to take care of the virus concerns. So the reason for it being installed is no longer valid. Now, quite frankly, it's just her trying to, quote, be safe, but she doesn't give any advice, any data, nothing that says that backs her position. So in my opinion, I'd like to send a motion from the board stating that we are not in favor of her extending it unless she can provide the data specifically that supports it. And that goes back to the first premise as to why it was installed in the first place. So that's I'm up, I'll drop down off the stool.
Okay, thank you. Any other members care to comment? Mr. Roman.
I just want to know, Mike Powell, how did you do grade point wise in statistics?
Part of the requirement to be an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you're sure about this bell curve stuff?
Oh, absolutely 100%.
Mr. Powell, I believe we'll have some further conversation and we can compose a letter send it to all the board members. If everyone's comfortable with it, we can send a letter to the governor. Once all the board members are comfortable with it. And that's all I would like to do, is just send a letter of memo. Okay?
Yes, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, you can't really circulate it and everyone offering comments. You're gonna
Right.
need to either authorize the supervisor to write the letter with the points of,
Well, then Michael, why don't you make a suggestion? Oh, Mr. Roman?
No, I was gonna suggest that we get Mike Powell's input as to what you want in this memo. Mike, are you good with that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of why I brought it up, because I'd like to have all your opinion, because I'm looking for your advice on it as well. Just strictly, quite frankly, I am in total agreement with the stay home safe. And if she had stuck with her original premise, I'd still be in favor of it. But she put this onerous burden on us. It's like, if you go outside, you're going to get even sicker. And quite frankly, the facts are the opposite. The outside is safer than the inside. So just strictly a letter from our board stating that we are not in favor of the extension of the stay-at-home order as it's currently presented to the state.
Well, why don't we do what we will call it a memo to the governor, okay, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you would direct the supervisor, will meet the intent and the desires of the township attorney.
I'm just one person and I've not heard anybody else.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in the event, go ahead, Miss Liz Smith.
So I'm listening carefully to Mr. Powell, and I'm still not sure. I clearly hear his objective for this letter. Stay-at-home executive order does not insinuate that you can't go outside and you'll get sicker. It in fact says you can go outside as long as you socially distance. So at this point in time, I can't really agree to this letter and sign it and be part of it without knowing what it says, because those facts aren't accurate. So that's where I'm at with it. Of course, I agree with safety. The health and safety of our residents is the most important. I do agree that this will be a new normal moving forward, which isn't so bad personally. Maybe our old normal was a little too busy and off base. Personal soapbox there for a minute, but so I would have to have a lot more information what this is going to say, because the executive order does not say we cannot go outside, and that you'll get sick or going outside.
Yeah, then just a simple, how about a simple motion or something saying that we agree with the president's presentation and not the governor's presentation or order.
I totally don't. I prefer to go with the governor. She knows what's best for our state. I would much rather get this done now and not have to do this again. We're halfway into 6 weeks of being, I've been off since March 13th. I don't necessarily like this, but I don't want to have to do this again. I would rather hang out in my home a couple more weeks than have to start this again in September. Yes, she's a little radical, absolutely. But I want this to be one and done.
The problem is it won't be, because you're arguing whether you're going to get sick or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's not our job to argue that. That's the problem. I think we probably all commonly disagree with the governor as a full Republican board.
Yeah.
But our job is local governing. So I think we need to, do what we can to best protect our local residents. And voicing our opinion is great. We all have the right to voice our opinion and be heard in our country, but we have to be factual in doing it. And I think it's probably best that we stay within our local scope.
So we can agree to vote we can agree with the president. It's either this or we go on the state capitol building and jump up and down with a sign. This is a lot more, this is much better.
Okay, hang on, Mr. Powell. Mr. Roman.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's my guess that a lot of this order is gonna change May 1st, Mike.
Right.
So one, would it make sense to wait until May 1st and see what happens, if anything? And if not, my God, I'll write the letter with you. In fact, I'll go up to Lansing with you and deliver it.
All right. let's do that.
Well, and then whatever letter you come up with can be presented to the township board as a whole at a special board meeting and everyone could weigh in on it.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yep, I love that.
There we go. Okay, all right. So we'll move along with that advice and let it go from there.
Thank you for listening to me.
That's, okay. We all good there, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're moving on to item 11, old business, to request to approve amendments to administrative policies and procedures. You know, we all spent a painstakingly amount of time going over the policies and procedures, and there was changes and red lines and changes were implemented. And Trish broke her fingernails typing this thing out so many times and going over it with Lisa and myself and trying to make sure it's clear. And we would like to move on with questions or moments, but I'd like to move this on to approve. Liz Smith.
Thank you for saying that. I just wanted to also add to our residents listening or that will read our minutes later that just to remind them, we already had a special board meeting on this and had a lot of opportunity to hammer it all out. So it's been, you know, already through our board a couple times with special board meetings as well.
Yes, thank you, Liz. And the fact that this hadn't been done in so many years that I think we're all surprised. It was like, I don't know, 20 years, something crazy like that. So I would appreciate if we would move that on. I would like to, any other questions from the board at this time?
No, I just
sounded
didn't-
like a motion to me, Liz.
Yeah, I just didn't want people to wonder why we were so quiet right now. We had like a several hour meeting about this already.
Yeah. Well, would you like to make a motion, Liz?
Sure, I'll make a motion to support the second reading of the policy manual. That's correct, I don't have it right.
Request to approve the amendments of administrative policies and procedures.
That sounds wonderful, Rick.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have a motion from Liz, support by Mr. Roman. Roll call vote. Roll call vote, please. Scott Ruggles, yes.
You must have lost him. Hey, Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Cowell, is
Yes.
Scott Ruggles in there with you? And did he say yes? Because I
He
don't
did
think
say
Terry
yes.
got his vote.
Oh, did you hear Mr. Ruggles?
I did not.
No.
Yes.
Okay,
Again, yes, he reiterated.
we have 7 yes.
Okay, 7 yes, okay. Motion carries, thank you. 11B, second reading of fee ordinance amendments of ordinance 129. Yes, Ken?
Mr. Colwell, if Mr. Ruggles would like to dial in through the traditional telephone, he has that option also if his device is dead.
And he's fine, he said he's fine sitting across, so he's comfortable in that chair.
Okay.
Thank you, though. The second reading of fee ordinance amendments of ordinance 129. John, part of what John, I'll be fine. John Howell was working on, and I'm just moving through, and I'd like to move it on to second reading. Mr. Powell,
This is
the
second reading.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
I figured.
so
For
Mr.
adoption.
Supervisor, I move adoption of the fee ordinance amendments as presented.
I have a motion to move, looking for support.
Andrea will support.
I have support from Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes, and my lips didn't move when Scott talked that time. Okay. Moving on to, thank you, board members. We got through the sticky part of this. Now moving on to the trustee comments. Before we get into the comments, there's a couple things. One thing that I do want to talk about is the COVID-19 for our residents out there. In the 48383 zip code, we have currently 19 cases and 1 fatality. In the 48386, we have 31 cases with no fatalities. This is a serious problem. We have to be vigilant with this and watch what we're doing. Washing your hands, your mom told you that, she wasn't wrong, okay? So, and now it's proven to even be a greater thing to do. I think we're going to see more people wearing a face mask, which is going to be more than normal. And I think we're going to see that the social distancing is going to carry on for a while. But that's what's going on in our community. So our community as a whole is doing a pretty good job of being respectful of everybody else's space. So be mindful of all the different things that you do. So that would be super important. I have some other things I will go over with. One of the things I want to touch on real quickly is I put out I was on Facebook here a little over a week ago and I did a supervisor's challenge. And I did it to all my board members to raise some money for Open Door, because Open Door Food Pantry does such a great thing for our community. And I will tell you, board members, I appreciate everyone that's participated. And if I haven't seen your participation yet or know of it, let me know for sure. Whoop, I just got another one. Mr. Ruggles just paid up. Okay. Cash. Okay. So, but I have here a variety of checks from residents that are called to doing this as a board. We're real close to raising $5,000, guys.
Woo!
Awesome, Rick.
So I think we did a great job, and I just want the public out there to know that I appreciate that, and now I think I'm going to put some of my other communities on the spot because I think I'm going to challenge Commerce Township, Mr. David Scott, to crack open his wallet and get the Moz out. Maybe some of your board members, because Open Door does help benefit your community, and my good friend Gary Wall. Who, as a matter of fact, the Open Door is located actually physically in Waterford. I'd like to see you maybe see what you can do to rattle your board a little bit, because Open Door lost two of their fundraisers, one for sure, possibly two of their fundraisers. They had a tea, I think, set up for May 4th, which is a good sized fundraiser. And then it looks like the Julie run could potentially be in peril. It's hard to say. So it's very important. They're doing some great work in our community. And this is a local, does it for us in our own backyard charity that is really important to help people in our greatest time. So that being said, I want to thank everyone for that. And I'm going to go on to trustee comments. And I would like to go to Liz Smith, please.
Okay, can you hear me? I was muted.
We can
You're
hear you.
good. We can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. So I want to thank our board for the unanimous support of the mental health and child abuse proclamations. Those are both such important issues right now, near and dear to my heart, and we all need to kind of keep an extra eye out for our neighbors right now, because sometimes they're not safe for those reasons right now, being at home. So everyone just keep an extra watchful eye out, please. I want to thank our recording secretary, Benny. We have given her so many challenges over the last few months in the new annex without microphones and fans. And she's my buddy that sits next to the hot and cold in the room, and she mothers that with me. And then now we've given her Zoom. And so you've done a great job. Thank you for being a trooper and sticking with us through these new ways to meet. I've been so honored over the last year or so to be part of Michigan Police Week Committee, which was planning a statewide celebration on May 16th and for Police Officer Memorial Day. And unfortunately, that event has been canceled due to the current pandemic. So I just wanted to let our residents and officers know, hopefully it'll be rescheduled. It was a large statewide event that we were holding in Pontiac. But I know the committee is on board to try to, when it's safe, to reschedule this event. So, and if you recall, I brought forward a proclamation that our board fully supported last year to make sure that we are honoring our police officers, and we did declare May 15th Peace Officer Memorial Day in White Lake Township as well. So I'd like to implore all of our residents to please, now more so than ever, support our first responders and police officers. And, let's light our town blue that weekend. Do anything you can to show your support: signs, ribbons, lights, kindness, letters, special treats, whatever you can think of to know that, that they know that our community fully backs and supports them. So again, that is May 16th, May 15th and 16th, Friday and Saturday. So please show up and show out White Lake for our thoughts like that. And then I want to just close with, of course, thanking all of our first responders again from the bottom of my heart. Our critical infrastructure, our nurses, doctors, everybody that's out there working. Everybody might be in a different boat, but we're all facing the same storm. So we need to stay together and be safe and be healthy and help your neighbor. And I'm praying for our community, for our health and safety. And our board is here to help you. So please reach out to any of us if you need food, help, support, mental health support. There's no stigma to that. Whatever you need, our board is here to keep our community safe. So thank you very much.
Okay, Andrea Voorhees.
Would like to also thank our township board for supporting the Mental Health Awareness Month. As someone whose office is in the OCHN building and is also considered an essential worker for that world, I would like to thank you for that. About 6 weeks ago, I ran into Officer Chuck Brandt patrolling our neighborhood. As we were talking, he told me that he was approximately 17 days out from retirement of his 25 years on the White Lake Township Force. About a month later, I ran into him again. I'm like, Chuck, I thought you had retired. And he's like, you know what? I told Chief Keller that I would hang out a little bit longer because we've been having some staffing challenges in regards to the COVID-19 challenges. So Chuck, as of about a week ago, was still working and he prolonged his retirement. So to me, he needs awesome accolades for hanging out a little longer. And I'm just going to finish off in this crazy world that we live in now, the soon to be new normal. Let's strive to survive. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. Mr. Lilly.
Thanks, Rick. I just want everybody to know that everybody had received an absentee ballot application for the May election, and that election has been canceled until August. Now, what does this mean for our voters out there? What it means is that you'll be receiving another application for your August and November elections. So everybody needs to be aware of the fact that when you receive that application, even though that you filled out 2 of them prior to this, that you will need again to fill out that application in order to receive a ballot for August and November. We're still waiting word from the Elections Bureau what the August primary is going to consist of, whether that is going to be an all absentee vote as they had planned for May. We do not know at this particular time, but hopefully in a very short period of time, we'll be getting an answer as ballot applications have to be yet to be ordered and out prior to getting those back for receipt. The other thing that happened today is I had a request for a fireworks permit application. I know on our solicitation that the board all agreed that we would not allow any solicitation. I guess thoughts to the fireworks application. Number one thought is to accept the application and to look at them to be prepared for a later date, or simply at this point say no. Obviously, fireworks applications are going to draw a lot of people. So I guess I would recommend to the board at this point that we not accept any applications for large events at this particular time. So I'd like to get some input back from all of you to this next gentleman at a time. So I'd appreciate your input on the matter.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. I have a concern about dog licenses, guys. We got a lot of pets in White Lake Township, And these dog licenses are due on June 1st. If you don't get your dog license by June 1st, there are some hefty penalties. And the last thing I need right now is our residents coming in and barking at me at my counter about late fees. So I reached out to Oakland County Animal Control, who today told me that they put the request in to delay the due date to Executive Dave Coulter, but they've not heard back yet. Any delay would have to go through the Oakland County Commissioner Board. So they need to be moving. I texted Eileen Kowal, Bob Hoffman, who said they would investigate it. Rick, I think you're going to look into it as well.
Yeah.
But June 1st is coming up quick. And so it's really important that we get that due date pushed out. In regard to this COVID-19, guys, man, our country has faced some great challenges, you know, over the centuries, and we've got a great track record at beating it. Stay positive. More than anything else, it's important to stay positive. Just use some common sense and stay safe. And I'm very confident we'll get through this. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and I want to support all of the board members of what they said so far. I want to reassure our residents and all of us that we as adults evaluate the risk of everything we do. We get in a car and that's a risk. We go out and mow our lawn, that's a risk. Everything we do is a risk. And based upon the numbers that the supervisor gave us, out of the 30,000 residents in this township, we have 19 and 31. So we have 50 residents that have a positive test and only one fatality. So the odds of you meeting someone out doing something is very remote. So we have to be concerned about ourselves. We have to make those decisions ourselves, but we should not bury ourselves and ignore the fact that life is a risk. So just be careful, practice the distancing, wear a mask if it makes you feel better. And just remember that life is precious, and we need to get back to as normal as we can as soon as we can. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Very good. I asked Mr. Ruggles, and he said he concurs with the rest of the members of the board, and he's good with that, and he doesn't want to get too close to me. So anyways.
Mr. Supervisor, I apologize. I forgot to answer Terry.
Yes.
I don't believe that something that's going to come up in July should be necessarily not held unless we can make sure we respond in time for them to order the fireworks. That may be in stage 4 or stage 3 or whatever back then, but my experience with fireworks are they're shot over a lake and you have people spread out all the way around a lake, and not necessarily, and again, that's something that the individuals can decide, but to not receive the firework applications for in July 4th when we don't know what's going to happen. I think that's different than us giving permission for people to go around and solicit sales in people's homes. I thought that that's a little different.
Yeah. We may take a look at that application process and see where it is, because a lot of that's not until the 4th of July, and
right.
We hopefully will know something by the end of the month here as to what's going on. But you know, Terry's point's well taken.
Yeah.
We just don't know. You know,
right.
So I think we may take the application, and Terry, Mike, and I'll have some in-house discussion on that, and can just kind of let the board know what's going on with that part of the application process. Thank you. Thanks all of you. A couple different things. First of all, I also want to thank Huron Valley Schools. A lot of the board members know, because you heard me talk, but most of the public may not know that they've served over 50,000 meals since school's been out. You know, and they're working their tail off to get this food that they have in there out there. They've got food to the end of the year, end of the school year, from the Department of Agriculture. And I've been in contact with Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who has some oversight in part of the Department of Agriculture. She's on one of the committees, I should say, and made her aware of the issue that we and other schools are going to have, that, you know, we don't know how long this whole crazy thing is going to go on and how it's going to affect people. I would like to see potentially an extension of this feeding program. It would help out a lot. And they're going to look in to see what resources that we have available for the Huron Valley School District. But Paul Salah and the superintendent and all the people there, I mean, everyone, the cooks, the bus drivers, the frontline packers, I mean, everybody, these are out there, and they're super essential people, and they're doing a great job and doing a lot for our community. The Saturday, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Saturday before Easter, they did over 4,200 lunches. I mean, 4,200 meals just in that day, largest record ever. One other things that I was going out there on fishing on Facebook, so to speak, and had someone come to me and say, hey, you know, we need plastic bags. We're running out of plastic bags. So I'd really like to thank, you know, my staff in here and John Holland and Chief Dan Keller. We got together, and Homer and Lowe's and Highland, our tropical pet shop is going to be giving some bags, and everybody's kind of getting together and trying to help out because they're having a shortage for these grab and go sandwiches. One of the things that the Huron Valley is going through right now is they're going through kind of an arduous situation with the pools over there, that there is a possibility that they may be closing the pools because they've reached a point in their life where they're going to need a ton of maintenance, and they don't know if it's going to be economically feasible. So they'd kind of like to hear, you know, what the public has to say about it. So you might want to drop them a line or something and let them know what your thoughts are on that. The other thing is the census news. 2020 census.gov. Okay, so now that you're sitting at home and you need something else to do, get online and do your census if you haven't done it already. Michigan is tied for third place in the country with Iowa and Nebraska, with the 56.9% self-response rate versus a 50.7% national response rate. So we're doing pretty good. White Lake Township is number 9 in the state in townships. Not bad, yes. The only problem is Lake Orion is kicking our butt.
Yeah.
So we need to get after everybody. Lake Orion is 71.2%. White Lake is 67.7. We're this close. And I got to give Chris Burnett some, you know what? So yeah. Everybody needs to get in there and dial in and let everybody know, and houses of faith and everybody get out there, do your census, get it done. Macomb Township is 75.5. They're number 1 in the state in townships. The census workers will be back out, if all goes well, around the first week of June. So if you don't want them knocking on your door and you want to maintain your social distancing, fill out your online form. It's real simple. It's 9 questions. It's super easy, and you can get it done in a real hurry. So the other thing is, one more thing. If you are a senior in our community and you need assistance, okay, you reach the White Lake Township Dublin Community Senior Center at 248-698-2394 for senior information and assistance. Interesting thing about seniors, they're great people. Not only are they great people, they're living history. I feel like I've gone back to school. I've talked to multiple residents, and I've gotten more history and more things and learned about stuff and about people, some of them board members, that I probably don't need to know, okay? But it's been very interesting. So if you have a neighbor, as Liz was saying, and she's spot on, get out there, reach out. Maybe somebody you don't talk to, maybe it's just a neighbor every now and then. I know most people right now are kind of like duck and cover, but do the wave, everything okay? Be neighborly. That's what's kind of been lost in this country to a degree. And we've got a pretty good community here, and it's not Mayberry, but you know, it's going to be what we make it. And the reason we are in the position we're in is because we have a progressive police department and a great community leaders here that really care about what goes on in our community. So with that, I say good night. God bless White Lake, and looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn, looking for support. I have support from Lily. And we'll do this one. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good
It was a
night.
pleasure to see you all.
Good night,
Aye,
White
yeah.
Lake.